There's a lot going on now, and there's a lot to be discussed in Brussels with this going on in the United Kingdom. What can the European Union do in order to try to help the UK in this situation?
Well, Boris Johnson is definitely making it about the choice between no deal and renegotiating the deal. So indeed the EU must renegotiate, and they seem to have taken one step at least in the right direction, which is to open up to renegotiating, or at least changing the binding part of the Brexit deal that Theresa May negotiated. Before, they have said that was always out of the question. Now, obviously, the troubling point for the UK is the backstop, is the Irish backstop, and I think the EU has to think very deeply how reasonable it is to ask that the UK would outsource its trade policy to Brussels forever until further notice.
Now, one of the things that we've heard, for instance, Boyko Borisov, the Bulgarian leader, say that, you know, if he were to suspend his parliament, he would be called a dictator. How right is that? There's a lot of comments coming out in that sense.
Well, to be fair, it's hard to judge, because this touches upon the intrinsicies of the British constitutional system. But it is a given that John Major himself has been proroguing Parliament. This happens before a Queen's speech. I mean, that's the argument of the government in the UK. Today, a judge has ruled that a legal challenge against it does not stand. So it looks, for now, that this is all within the bounds of what is legal and what is constitutional. Nevertheless, in any case, the Parliament in the UK still has the possibility to avoid a no deal, but it has become just much harder.
Does suspending the Parliament, like we're seeing happening, does that create more will, more pressure on the EU to change its opinions, or does it entrench the EU position?
No, it absolutely creates a lot more pressure on the EU. There have been some reports, amongst others, in Die Welt, a German newspaper, indicating that the EU is definitely believing now that Boris Johnson wants to go for no deal. And I assume that the EU also realizes that obviously they are not properly prepared for that, just like the UK is, of course, not properly prepared for that. So logically, then you would expect them to rethink some of their dogmas. And I think in particular Ireland is the country here that really has the keys. Everybody agrees, including the UK, that we need to prioritise the peace process, and we absolutely need to avoid a hard border in Ireland. Now, whether you can only achieve that by continuously outsourcing the UK's trade policy to Brussels forever, I think I have my doubts about that. A time-limited backstop is, for example, only one of the ways you could see as a compromise.
But the EU has ruled out any time-limited